with the interpretation if we can focus in on your box on the Zoom. So thank you so much. And Angela, we should be on YouTube in just a moment. Great, go right ahead. We're ready for you, Angelo. Go ahead.
All right, hello. My name is Angela Ardanda. I'm the chair of the commission, and I welcome you to the City of Salem's Human Rights Commission. As always, as we start these meetings, we're gonna do introductions, popcorn style, and I'll start with Krista.
Hi, it's so hard to see on this screen. I'm sorry. This is Krista Aguilar, and I'm the vice chair, and I use she or her, and I'm from Ward 4, and I'll turn it over now to Oni.
Hi, I am Oni Marchbanks. I am in Ward 6. That's it. Thank you. I will turn it over to Detective Debbie Aguilar.
Hi, I'm Debbie Aguilar. I use she, her pronouns, and I'm a lieutenant with Salem Police, and I am the liaison between the police department and the Human Rights Commission. And I'll pass it to David.
Hi, my name is Reinhold. I'm on the commission. I'm a resident of Polk County, and my pronouns are he and him. And I'll pass it to Chief Womack.
Well, hello, my name's Trevor Womack. I'm the still fairly new chief of police here in Salem. And let's see, I'll pass it to Ryan.
Hello, I'm Ryan Botkin, and I'm a student at Corbin University, and I'm just interning with the city of Salem. With that, I'll pass it to Jackie.
Hi, everybody. I'm Jackie Leung, she, they pronouns. I'm a city councilor in Ward 4. Happy to be among you all. And I'll pass it to Dr. Brown.
Thanks, Jackie. My name is Irvin, Dr. Brown. I'm in Ward 5, and I am a volunteer, and my pronouns are he and his. And let's see. Has Jordan gone yet? Maybe, maybe not.
Jordan may be on break because he's one of our 2 interpreters and is not with us at the moment while Tracy, oh, here's Jordan.
I'm just the interpreter, but hi, I'm Jordan. Nice to meet you all, or see you again.
And Jordan, you're not just the interpreter. That's a very important role, so thank you.
Well, thank you.
Great, we have a couple of guests this evening. Rabbi Eli is here with us tonight, and I think we'll be sharing during public comment. There's Rabbi. And Dana Young is here this evening, I believe, to share at public comment. Welcome, Dana.
Hi, good afternoon. This is Dana and David Young, and we're just here as community members and really just tuning in into the meeting. We'll probably reserve our public comment to next month, if that's okay.
Of course, very good.
Thank you.
Thank you. Okay, Angela, I think back to you.
All right, just checking. Can you all still hear me? All right. So, okay, agenda 2, introduction. All right, welcome to the new police chief, Trevor Womack. I think this is your time.
Okay, well, thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to meet some more folks. Some of us have already met, some of us haven't yet. But again, my name is Trevor Womack. I've been the chief now for almost 90 days. So I'm just wrapping up my first 90 days on the job. And I've spent the vast majority of that time as planned, really just trying to meet as many people as possible within the department, out in the community as well, to try to get a better understanding of the context of the organization and the community. Intentionally not really making any big decisions yet while I go through this process of settling in and getting to know folks. But to do that, so this is another opportunity just to introduce myself a bit, get to know some more people. So I thought I would just spend a little bit of time talking about myself, about where I come from and my experience. And so I came up from California, from Stockton, California, just south of Sacramento. And that's where I spent my whole life. I was born just outside of town, but I was raised in Stockton my whole life. And so I went through the public school system there and raised a family there, and worked my whole law enforcement career until now there. My father was a police officer as well at the Stockton Police Department, and so I always had a connection to law enforcement my whole life. And so at the age of 21, I knew what I wanted to do, and I became a police officer with the Stockton Police Department. And I worked there for almost 29 years. So I had all manner of assignments throughout the department and worked my way up through the ranks to be a deputy chief at the police department there, which is the number 2 position below the chief. And I worked there as a deputy chief for the past 8 years. And most of that was on the operations side of the department, which is the largest side of the department, doing all the work out in the field that we're familiar with that the police do. And I had quite a few unique experiences there that I think that I want to draw upon as I move into Salem now and become part of this community and part of this department, and give back some of those experiences that I had in Stockton, and some of the lessons learned, especially around things like building trust and bridges with your community in some new ways, especially disadvantaged communities or underserved communities. We did some unique work in Stockton that we could talk more about if anyone's interested. And I want to bring some of that experience here into Salem and apply it. And then also a unique experience too in Stockton was we went through municipal bankruptcy in that city, which isn't something to be proud of necessarily, but it's definitely a unique experience. And so we went through, as a city as a whole and as a police department, we went through a pretty traumatic financial crisis type experience where we made dramatic cuts to our organization across the board. And then we had to learn to do more with less to the extreme. Everybody says that, but when you're going through bankruptcy, it's to the extreme. And then the silver lining out of all that was kind of the opportunity to rebuild the organization as we came out of bankruptcy. And so to go through a period of dramatic negative change as an organization, and then kind of to land someplace at the bottom and then rebuild in a whole new way, that was a unique set of experiences. And I learned a lot going through that. And so I want to bring that, both, the efficiencies aspect of that, but then also the prioritizing of what your goals are and what your focus is as a law enforcement agency when you go through an experience like that, and how you repair the damage that occurred with your community when they're cut off from police services and lose the type of personal touch that we had built up over years. So anyway, those are some unique experiences from Stockton that I bring with me and part of who I am now as a law enforcement leader. And my education real quick, I started with nothing but a high school diploma as a police officer, and I'm a lifelong learner. And so I started going back to school in a traditional way as a police officer while raising a family. And I got my AA in criminal justice and eventually my bachelor's degree in criminal justice. And then I got a master's degree from the Naval Postgraduate School on security studies, kind of homeland security type science. So I have the educational pedigree with me as well. But why Salem? Why am I here as the chief of police, and why am I here in this community? And it feels to me like a lot of circumstances led me to right where I am now, and this is exactly where I'm supposed to be. And so as I worked my way through the ranks in Stockton with the police department, which was my home city, as I got towards the end of that career, towards the end of 29 years, I realized that I wouldn't be able to step into the chief of police role there. The chief, who I'm a good friend with, is younger than I was, and so I kind of hit that ceiling there. And I began realizing that I'm just not done yet. I don't feel like I'm done with this law enforcement career. And some of those experiences I talked about gave me a perspective that I really wanted to give back. I really wanted to give back to an agency and a community, especially around, like I said, these experiences around trust building with our community. I just feel like I have something to give back, and I owe it to the profession as a whole. And so I want to do that right here in Salem. But specifically why this community is, my wife and I had been talking about moving up to Oregon someday in retirement anyway, for several years. And so as I was scanning the horizons for other opportunities and I saw this position open up in Salem, it just seemed like the perfect timing and the perfect location. So that's why I'm here. I'm super happy to be here. I'm very excited. It's been a great experience so far. It's literally been like drinking from a fire hose. There's so much to learn and so much that's new here for me, but it's been a very good experience. Everybody's been very welcoming and supportive. And so it's been a positive experience. So that's a little bit about me, and we could talk more about my policing philosophy and so forth also if we want to, but that's why I'm here in Salem. I'm just looking forward to getting to know more people, looking forward to get a better understanding of the Human Rights Commission and how we can work together to move forward in some new ways, and I'm committed to that work too. So I look forward to getting to know all of you better. And I could take any questions now if you want, or I'm not sure of the flow of the agenda, but if anybody had questions, I'd be happy to take those too.
Thank you. And if anybody has any questions, feel free to ask.
Hi, this is Krista here. I just want to say welcome to Salem, and gosh, I'm really excited about learning together, and it's nice. I'm hoping that you can attend more meetings, and I really appreciate the information that you've filled us in as far as your background goes.
Thank you. It's nice to meet you. One quick topic maybe I'll toss out there is, there was a community policing audit underway before I arrived. I think most people are familiar with that. We've seen some near final draft now and some findings that are starting to come out. More information will come out in the next couple of weeks or so. But there was no surprises for me in that report that I've heard ever seen so far, and a lot of it has to do with some opportunities, I think, to move the agency forward here, building upon some of the great work that's already been done. This is a good, solid agency from what I can tell already in just my first 90 days. And I want to build upon that foundation. And I think some of the findings in the community policing audit or community engagement audit lend to that work. And so there's even a section in there that talks about, assessing the role of the Community Police Review Board and our accountability measures across the board. And so I'm looking forward to diving into that work and seeing opportunities to move forward there as well. So anyway, I don't look at the audit as any sort of negative thing at all. I look at it as a very positive kind of roadmap and some extra direction for us as an agency, and we can now focus on how do we implement those findings in the right way for our organization and our community.
Thank you. Any more questions? And also our guests can ask questions if they would like to.
In case that was hard to hear, I heard Chair Arredondo say that guests are also welcome to ask questions.
This is David Reinhold. I just want to say welcome to Salem, and that I hope that you have a great Meet the Chief breakfast tomorrow.
Yes, I'm looking forward to that. It's a bit of a unique experience, right, to have a virtual breakfast with the chief during a pandemic. And so it'll be different. I think it's going to be very positive, but it's a different kind of experience. So thank you for
that. This is Dana Young. Just a question here. With Salem Kaiser Public Schools, like, where do you see that relationship? Obviously, we have a lot of biases, and especially with our boys of color. So, like, what are your plans to go ahead and engage, like, with the school district and all of that stuff, and get to know the kids?
Yes, I think so. Right now, there is this kind of looming issue of a decision that needs to be made about the level of perhaps the SRO program. What's the status of our school resource officer program? And those decisions haven't been made yet. And so I'm kind of waiting to see how that might play out as well. I think we'll see some movement on that fairly soon. But outside of that, we need to look at ways to engage in new positive ways with students. And there's a safety component to that. Of course, we want to make sure we're coordinating closely with our school district on campus safety and keeping our schools safe. But then also, just as importantly for me, if not even more importantly, it's finding ways to engage with and interact with youth in ways that build trust and confidence and legitimacy in the police department in their eyes. And we can have some deeper conversations. And sometimes that might include some of the history that comes with law enforcement, or the history of going back before even I was involved in law enforcement, that's still attached to the badge and the uniform sometimes. And so I think there's opportunities to have those type of courageous conversations with youth and start coming together and find common ground on some of these issues that seem to be dividing us a little bit. And so for me, it's about, there's a school safety component, but then there's also these opportunities to really engage with youth in new ways about police legitimacy and trust building. So I'm going to, right now I don't have specifics on that, but the team and I are exploring ideas, and some of that's even called out in the community policing audit about assessing ways to engage with youth. And so we'll be doing a lot of that work going forward. Again, it's just, sorry I don't have more specifics with just my first 90 days on the job, but the big picture, that's where I'm coming from on my approach there.
Awesome. Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, I'm not sure if we have Angela, so I'll jump in and say, Chief, thank you so much for your time and your information. And although you're welcome to stay, I understand, I think you've got something else you need to get to. So we welcome you staying or leaving as you need. And I think the next item on the agenda would be public comment. Is anyone here to share public comment tonight? Yes, Rabbi, go right ahead.
Sure. Okay. I'm Rabbi Eli Herb from Temple Beth Shalom. Our synagogue is on the south side of Salem, if you don't know it, behind to the west of the Roths on the Sunny Slope area. I'm coming just because we've been doing a lot of thinking in our community about security lately, a little bit more heightened than normal. Because some of the sort of high profile news stories that you're reading about right now about, for example, QAnon, the presence of QAnon, the presence of white nationalism and white supremacy in the political sphere, sort of heightened radicalism of those groups. All of those groups happen to have explicit anti-Jewish components. So our community there's no sense that we're like imminently in danger right now, but we are kind of trying to think ahead and prepare, and the police department has been very helpful in that regard. So I just wanted to come and bring that to you all to let you know that that is a concern that we have. We're not obviously the only community that's concerned about the rise of the power of far right kind of radical groups right now. But all of those groups do explicitly name Jews as part of their MO. So I wanted to bring that to the Human Rights Commission. And I'm happy to answer any questions if you have any.
Thank you. That's just critical feedback and important to understand the experience of you and the members of the synagogue. Are there any questions for Rabbi? Dr. Brown.
Thank you, Gretchen. So Rabbi, have anyone in your community experienced any kind of, hatred, some targeted, race or anything in regards to targeting people in your community? Or maybe I heard that. I just want to just get some clarity on it.
Yeah, we have. It hasn't been, despite the national concern for Jewish communities right now, there hasn't been an increase in the past couple of months, for example, I'm thinking in my head since January 6th, there hasn't been an increase, but yeah, we have as a community experienced targeted things, and then as individuals we have have had negative anti-Semitic experiences in Salem.
Thank you for sharing.
Sure.
Other questions or comments? Well, Rabbi, thank you for sharing. There's just no place for that in Salem. We want everyone to feel comfortable and safe and welcome. And it'll be on our minds as we go through planning for this year, I know, to be thinking about if there's actions or steps that we can take as a commission to look for how to support the members.
Yeah, and that's something, I mean, I just want to say that our community is committed to doing that for other communities too. So we're very active in that realm. So I just want to make sure that we all know that we're trying to get Salem to live up to its name as best we can together. And it's actually doing a pretty dang good job, really. So just want to say that right now.
Love it. Thank you. Feels like one team. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Are there other public comment tonight? Oh, Councillor Leung, please.
Hi, everybody. First and foremost, thank you for your service and for being part of the Human Rights Commission. My name is Jackie Leung, as mentioned earlier, and I'm a city councilor in Salem, specifically in Ward 4, which is parts of South and Southeast Salem. I actually sort of started with the city actually as one of the commissioners on the Human Rights Council, and it was a really good experience for me. And I'm excited to see the number of folks who are in the room who are still active and involved. So thank you again for your service and the work that you're doing. Just wanted to remind people and let you know that as a city councilor, I'm here to listen to you. And if you're outside of Ward 4, it doesn't matter. I am still here and committed to addressing any concerns that you have. And if there's an answer that you need that I don't know the answer to, I'll try and get that resource to you in the fastest way possible. Thank you.
Great. Any questions or comments for Councillor Leung? Councillor, thank you for that support and accessibility. I know the commission feels it and appreciates it. All right, any other public comment tonight? Krista, am I jumping in too quickly? Are you interested in facilitating? I'm kind of jumping in kind of quick.
No.
I'm going to keep us going for the moment. We're unable to do the approval of the agenda and the minutes because we don't have a quorum, so we'll defer that to next month. And so we're on to the bias crime update, and that's Lieutenant Aguilar.
So this last month, we had 2 new bias crimes that occurred and 1 bias incident. The 2 bias crimes happened both towards the end of February. The first one happened on February 27th, and it happened in Northeast Salem at house that is being run as a recovery services, social services center. And they reported that a male walked into their business who had been previously trespassed. They asked the male to leave, and one of the workers at the recovery center made the request for the male to leave. The male then used some homophobic slurs towards the employee and shoved the male prior to leaving the location. So the police were called, but the suspect right now is unknown. So the investigation is still open and pending identification of the suspect. And then the second one was, let's see, it occurred on February 28th, so on Sunday, but it wasn't reported to us until March 1st. And this one you may actually, the newspaper picked up on it, so they may run a story on this one. The victim was walking to a downtown business. She's a student. She was walking to a downtown business when she walked past two males who were walking on the street. One of the males ended up pushing her down and kicking her, what she described as softly several times. So she wasn't injured by the kicking, but she was still kicked several times after she was pushed down. And the male also made some anti-Asian slurs towards her as he was kicking her. There was another male that was present, but he wasn't involved in the assault. The males then subsequently left after that. The victim reported that she didn't think about reporting it at the time. It may have been because she was nervous. It may have been because she thought maybe we wouldn't be able to identify the suspects, but she chose not to report right away. But then later, after speaking with some friends, decided that it would be best to report it to us. So we took the report today. Right now, we have some suspect descriptions, but we don't have a solid identity of who those are. The victim's school sent out a notification to the other students about this incident, and the media picked up on it. So there may, like I said, there might possibly be a news story that's run, although it did give me an opportunity, because I spoke with the reporter, to talk with her about the Oregon Department of Justice crime victim and bias incident hotline that the Oregon Department of Justice is running now, that provides advocacy services and victim services for victims of bias incidents and bias crimes. So that was, I guess it was a bonus. I did talk to the reporter about the concern of that the victim may be traumatized having an article written about her without her consent, as well as perhaps some other communities being vicariously traumatized by having to hear this through a newspaper article. So she didn't, the reporter didn't say either way whether she was going to report or not. However, she did want to reach out to the victim. So I don't know if the victim's going to want to speak with her. And then the one bias incident that took place was in Northwest Salem, and it happened on February 7th. And this one is a neighborhood or neighbor disputes in an apartment complex. A downstairs neighbor who's an Hispanic male has been harassing and using racial slurs towards an upstairs neighbor who is a Black female. She thinks this may be due to the Hispanic male being shot. Earlier, well, about 2 months ago, he was shot by an associate of the victim. And so she thinks that maybe this has some correlation, the harassment has some correlation. She's trying to work through her apartment manager as far as the verbal harassment. Right now, there's no crime, but the officer did walk her through some potential criminal behavior should it continue, and should some specific language be used. So she was educated on to continue to call, and that we certainly would look into any of these additional calls that she makes on if there's criminal activity or not. And all of these incidents now I'm reporting to the Department of Justice hate crime website. So that's the website that tracks all the hate crimes and hate incidents that happen in Oregon. So I'm documenting all that in their website so that they can more accurately track if these folks don't call the hotline, they can track what happens here in Salem, so that they have the state has a better picture of really what's going on in Oregon in regards to hate and bias crimes and bias incidents. So that was all I had as far as bias crimes and bias incidents. I don't know if there's any questions.
Hi, this is David. I have a couple questions.
Yeah.
The first question is, have in a year from a year ago, so February of 2020 to now, have you seen an increase in bias crimes or incidents?
So as far as numbers, I can tell you, so number one, I can tell you that there have not been an increase, even though nationally we hear about the bias crimes or bias incidents related to like anti-Asian sentiment. So we actually have not had any of those incidents within the past year. So we have not had anyone call us and say that they've had somebody use racial slurs, anti-Asian slurs towards them. The numbers, I'm trying to look, I think we did have an increase slightly between this year and last. I'll have to pull up my stats to let you know, but I can get you that information here in just a minute. But I think the numbers have fluctuated within the past 5 years. There have been some lower number years. It has been going up. I want to say we had 3 more last year than the year before, but don't quote me on that. Let me pull it up. And did you have another question?
Yeah, the other question is, I could hear bits and pieces of when you were talking about the female that was kicked. Was that a youth?
No, was not a juvenile. And I don't know, Gretchen, if you want to go on to the next one, and then I can circle back once I get the note. So no, not everyone's just sitting here staring, waiting for me to find it.
Thank you. That sounds good. And just raise your hand when you're ready. My part is to share the complaints report that has come in into the mayor's office for the Human Rights Commission. I had just one incident during this past month, and it was a request by a community member to take a good look at the accessibility of the opportunity to provide public comment at public meetings for a public organization. So I'm in the middle of kind of looking at all of the different places on the web page where that information lies, and looking for opportunities to strengthen the accessibility and the communication of that opportunity so that people can access that form of government during this pandemic while meetings aren't in person. So that's the one situation that I have that I've been working on. Would welcome any questions. All right, then. Oh, Deb, go ahead. Yep, perfect.
I knew it was right at my computer. So in 2020, we had 21 reports of bias crimes in Salem. And in 2019, we had 17. So interestingly enough, in 2018, so just the year before, there were only 7. So some of that doesn't necessarily mean that if we have fewer reports, we had fewer crimes. It may just mean that there were fewer people who felt comfortable reporting or wanted to report. And then those high years, it may just be that people felt more comfortable or felt like it was the police were easily accessible to make those reports. And that's why I think if you look on the hotline, the Oregon Department of Justice website, it really gives you a lot of great information, because folks who maybe are hesitant to report to the police are more likely to call the hotline, because they'll receive advocacy services, but then they also speak with somebody who they don't have to worry about, do I have to make a police report or not, or am I talking to a police officer or speaking to a victim advocate? So that information may be more realistic to what the picture of bias crime is the picture of bias crime in the state. And that's it.
Thank you.
Very good. Angela or Krista, do you want to take us to the next item, or would you like me to do that?
Oh, this is Krista. Just one second. I'm going to take a look at the agenda.
Gretchen, do I sound clearer now?
Yes, you do.
Okay, this is Krista here. I'm a little bit concerned about going ahead with the next thing that's on the agenda at this, because actually there's only a few of us that are attending here tonight. So I guess, what do you feel? Should we go ahead and have the conversation now, or should we hold it off until the next time when there's more people that are participating? I mean, I don't know. How do you feel about that?
Commissioners, I certainly defer to you. That's the second voice that's expressed that. So that's a really important perspective, and it's absolutely fine to delay until you have more here. That's understandable. I think there's 4 commissioners with us tonight.
Angela here. David, what do you think we should do?
I think with only 4 commissioners, you should defer. I don't think we have a quorum, do we, to even vote on anything?
This is Krista. Yeah, I don't believe we do.
You don't.
Then Oni, do you have any thoughts on this?
This is Krista here. I suggest that we actually just wait for the other commissioners. We can contact them, and what we can do is schedule another meeting this month, because I think there are things that we would like to discuss.
Angela here. Yeah, I agree. I think we're going to need another meeting, a special meeting in this month. If Gretchen, you can send out a poll or something so we can start doing that.
Will do.
I think this leaves us in a tough place, because speaking of task forces, we're also missing some of our task force leaders. Is that right, Gretchen?
That is correct. That is correct. Although both the awareness and the LGBTQIA+ intersectional had to cancel due to the storm. They had a majority of the members unable to participate given power outages and internet outages. So they canceled their meeting in the last month. But if you like, we can defer the task force updates as well to the special meeting in March. That would be appropriate.
Yeah, Angela here. I really didn't want to do that, but I'm guessing it's our only option right now, because we don't have anything for those.
Well, then that takes me to staff update, and I just have one that builds on something Chief Womack shared about a police performance audit. I know you were able to contribute by sharing your perspectives as the Human Rights Commission to the audit team. And I wanted to follow up and make you aware there's a work session that is with our city council in the audit team and the audit steering committee, of which Oni is a member, our own member, on March 15th at 6 p.m. And that's going to stream live on YouTube, just like these meetings do. And so I thought you might enjoy knowing that, in case you'd like to watch and hear that conversation. You also remember there's the webpage that contains information, and I or Oni, I'm sure, can answer questions should you have any questions that you'd like to ask. I can jump into the community calendar. I actually couldn't find anything. I tried to build the calendar this month, but couldn't locate anything that fit the criteria. So I just didn't produce that this month. But hopefully, as the community begins some reopening activities, we'll start seeing more events that can be in person.
Angela here. Gretchen, I had a question for you. I know we send out our 2 or 1 surveys. How are responses on those?
I received from one person one of the surveys, and from a second person one of the surveys that was partial complete. So not a lot of participation. It sounds like there were a number of people affected by the power outages and the internet outages. And I also respect how daunting those projects were. That's a significant list of issues and questions to dig through. So I imagine having a little more time with the information will be helpful for the majority. So I've got two partial responses to answer your question. And if you don't mind, while I've got the microphone, I thought of something else I was going to do in staff report. I had a request, or I had a person express challenge with attending meetings on Tuesdays. And I wanted to ask if the group would be supportive of having me do a scheduling poll to check the day of the week that the commission meets. Maybe I can find a way to do that with the same poll, I'm not sure, but I'm wondering if the commission is open to considering a change to the day of the week. We've been meeting on the first Tuesday of every month, but the conflict is with Tuesdays in general. So I'm wondering how you all feel about that. And I guess the idea would be to poll it, not to make the decision tonight, but to poll the question and then see what the data tells us.
Angela here. So the issues on Tuesday, then it's not a time issue.
Yeah.
It's just the whole day. Okay. Yeah. I think, in my opinion, just sending out a poll and seeing what days work best for everybody.
Will do. So you'll see two polls for me unless I can figure out how to do it in one. One will be to poll a second meeting in March to work on, to do everything we didn't get to do tonight. And then the other poll or question will relate to the general meeting time of the commission.
Okay, any member remarks and or announcements? Anything anybody wants to say?
This is Krista. I have something I'd like to add. I mean, it's not an announcement per se, but it's been a strange month for so many people now, and having a meeting, people are behind, and the schedule being hung. I'm hoping that we're able to catch up this next month, and have some recommendations for next month as well, and to have more council members. But I just want to thank you, Mr. Womack, again for coming, and hopefully you will have other meetings in the future, and where you're able to come in, we'll have more council members here. So, and I would assume that they probably will have some more questions for you, sir.
Thank you. Excuse me. Thank you. I was happy to be here.
This is Ryan Botkin. I have a question for Chief Womack. I just thought of, if that's appropriate.
Yeah, go ahead.
Thank you. I was just wondering, in your experience with building trust between the police department and the community, how do you measure that trust between the community and the police? Because is that like through surveys, or is it maybe through the audit that's in process right now? I'm just curious about that.
I think that is an excellent question. And I had the same question as I was going through the process, because how do you measure something like trust? And so one way would be surveys, but typically heavy survey work also has its cost attached to it. So there's, a budget requirement for that, and it's kind of hard to sustain budgetarily. So that's one way to do it in one gauge. I think that's an important way to do it, possibly. But there's also maybe some indicators of the outcomes of trust. Right? And so if you see a change there, maybe it's an indication that trust is improving. You can't necessarily say for sure there's causality there. But one example might be, let's say you're dealing with disadvantaged communities that suffer from high violent crime. Gang-related shootings, for example, right? And typically the ability for the police department to solve those type of crimes is challenging, because there needs to be high trust between victims and witnesses to report and provide evidence and identify suspects, for example. And so an example from my experience in Stockton would be that exact type of crime is prevalent there. And as we went through this process, going through the national initiative, and it was research-based work that we were doing on trust building, that was one of the indicators that we paid attention to. And so our clearance rate for solving homicides, especially gun-involved homicides, increased greatly over that 3-year period. So that might be just one indicator. Now, can you say that's directly tied, to measure trust? No. But if you find several different indicators, that can be pretty strong evidence that there's something happening there around the willingness of the community to engage with law enforcement and provide information. So that's one way. So I think you need to look at identifying indicators to trust as well. But then if you can back that up with some hard survey work, then that would be the best way to measure it.
Great, thank you.
Another simple one could be, for example, anonymous tips. So if you have a Crime Stoppers program or anonymous tip program, and you just measure those. When you start your trust building work and start to measure what sort of tips you're receiving, the frequency of those, how valuable they are, and if you see that increasing as well, then it's possibly an indicator of people more comfortable providing information to the police.
Thank you. That's really helpful. Mm-hmm.
All right, thank you. Any other questions, comments, announcements? All right, I think as Krista said, the ice storm kind of threw everybody off. So we hope that we will have another meeting in March with more information. I hope that the chief, you will be able to join us soon again. And if that's everything, this meeting is adjourned. Have a good night, everybody.